One of the things that I use AI to learn, and specifically Perplexity, as Jyunmi was saying, is cultural references.
Well, I can't get why Anthropic hasn't partnered with some sort of educational institute.
Responses that I've heard from the educator side has been, oh, no.
The tools that will actually help you as a real-time coach to learn something in practice.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is July 22nd, 2024, and you're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we are here with Jyunmi, Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. We'll see if anybody else jumps in the door as the day goes on. But we're here to kind of talk about something fun today, which is like, what are we personally using? And by the way, we haven't shared that with each other, so I don't know what everybody else is going to say, but what have we learned? I said the wrong way. What have we learned recently? Either a new skill or maybe something we're diving into where we used AI as part of that process for learning. And I think this is a really good idea. I think, Beth, you were saying maybe you or Phil came up with this one. I'm not sure. But I like the idea because you don't really stop and think about it sometimes. And I think all of us obviously are using AI, daily, multiple times a day. And we're using, in a lot of cases, multiple different AI products or tools like a Perplexity to do one thing for us or another. So today is just an opportunity for us to sort of share with our audience, like, hey, these are some of the things we have currently going on. And this is how we've gone about learning something new using AI to our advantage. Does anybody want to add to that?
Well, I'll go first just so that I can
Sure.
get the easy one out of the way, which I'm sure is on everybody's list. And we've said this multiple times. Perplexity. Perplexity is the number one tool I use to learn about all the new things, right? Now it's been touted as, it's to replace Google search and things like that. But I really like it as a learning tool, right? Its pro features are really, really good at drilling down into a subject.
Mm-hmm.
Its related questions allow you to explore connected things, right? And related paths for whatever you're learning. So sometimes you can really go down a rabbit hole by, just following that path.
Mm-hmm.
But the main output, especially if you're trying to learn something completely new, I find that what might be difficult for other AI tools is fairly easy or consistent with Perplexity, and that's multifaceted questions, right? Normally, you want to just keep your inquiries to one specific subject or one angle that you want to approach it from, but with my queries to Perplexity, it's usually multifaceted. I have a subject A, and what about X, Y, or Z, that kind of thing. And its process does pick that up and asks, and as you watch the steps go through, you can see where it parses your question, and you can see if it's accurate to your intention. And that I really like too, showing your work, so to speak, and it really helps me focus in on if I asked the question incorrectly or I got a result that I wasn't intending, and so that helps me immensely. And then it's fairly easy on what the data it provides. If I ask it to teach me in a certain level or certain type. Such like I want to be explain this as if I was a high schooler, or explain if this if I was in 8th grade or something like that. It works along those lines. I do like the fact that I can get different answers by trying different models and things like that on the pro version. But the nicety of Perplexity is how easy it is to get into using it as a teaching tool. Teach me X, right? Explain to me Y. Those kinds of questions does get an in-depth response, and I can just keep going and going and going with it. So I think that for me, that's my number one tool and is indispensable for research for the show. So I'll take the low hanging fruit and say Perplexity right off the bat for everybody on that one.
So I just want to add a couple of specifics for that. So one of the things that I use AI to learn, and specifically Perplexity, as Jyunmi was saying, is cultural references. So on X, one of the things that that makes it, so amazing is because it's an international forum, right? It's you're being able to hear things from everybody's. Not everybody's on X. All of the people on X are not necessarily American, the same age as I am. So there are cultural references that people make in their regular communication that I just don't have reference for. And I take a screenshot of what I'm reading, I upload it into Perplexity, and I say, what is this referring to? Right? And it's referring to a Antonioni movie, named this, right? Those kinds of things that help me understand the culture underneath the conversation that's happening is really helpful and also super quick, right? I get that answer right away as opposed to Googling something, trying to describe the image that I'm seeing because Google wasn't going to allow me to search by the photo, or if I search by the photo, it's looking for other sites that have this exact screenshot on them. That's not helpful, right? There's just a bunch more things that I have to do. And we've talked about how AI is dropping the barrier for language, right? That the ability of your AI in your pocket to be able to translate what you're hearing in another language and being able to get that in the language that you speak, that doesn't include the translation of culture. And so I find this specific thing really helpful.
Yeah, I'll add to that for sure. Just being over here in France and obviously in Paris for the last week and a half so far. You go in the grocery store, the things we needed in the Airbnb, because we're having to hang dry everything. We do have a washer, but we're having to hang dry everything. It gets a little rough, towels get a little rough and stuff. So we wanted to add fabric softener. You forget how easy that is back home. But now you got to go to a store and the label is 90% of the time, it's all in French. It's not like there's no labels over here that have English on them and you can't figure it out. But man, is it helpful to be able to throw an image in, not just a Perplexity, but some of the other tools as well to get a translation. And to your point, Beth, with an image, it's not like I have to type this in and try to get the letters right. And how do you spell that in French? Because it doesn't sound anything like it looks 90% of the time. I will give you an example. Saint Michael, or what we would say is Saint Michel, as a metro stop, sounds something like Seychelles. They throw out the T, the MI, they ignore half of the words and they just the letters and they just go with Seychelles. So, well, that makes it tough, right? Because even if I'm listening and I'm really trying to figure out the letters, it makes it well, how do I spell that? Because there's literally letters missing in the pronunciation. So it's huge, and Perplexity is great for that. And I'll add one other one to it. Just getting additional meaning. It's those follow-up questions sometimes, especially when I'm over in another country. And to your point, I'm trying to pick up on the cultural references. It's more than just the one layer deep of specifically what is the definition of this thing. Perplexity will give you the definition, but will give you the understanding behind it. And that could be huge when you're living and working in another culture for a while to just try to help to understand the cultural references, the norms, things like that. It's not always just about translate the shampoo bottle or something. It's helpful for that too. But going that one layer deeper and feeling like you truly understand it. An example of that today was my wife wanted to go have a picnic. So we were doing a typical Parisian picnic in one of the squares over here, which is absolutely beautiful. And my wife and my daughter are going to go make their own perfume, something they really wanted to do here in France or in Paris. So they're going to be doing that. And so my daughter Sophia is like, I should ask a ChatGPT or something for ideas for a name, because you get the name your perfume, right? And so it's getting all these kind of crazy things, whatever. She's like, Dad, you're better at doing these questions than me. I was like, well, yes. So she gives me things. So I go off into these questions or whatever, and it's saying something about Fontainebleau. And so she's like, well, what arrondissement is that in? I was like, I don't know. Let's go find out. So Perplexity, we go. Come to find out, it gave us this amazing, it was using a Sonnet on the back end, but it gave us this amazing explanation of how it wasn't in one of the arrondissements. It wasn't a specific thing. It was a town outside of France, and what it was trying to evoke in this naming of this, whatever it was for the perfume, was it evoking of Parisian countryside with flowers and all these kind of things. We would have never gotten that answer if I had just Googled what is Fontainebleau. It would have said it's a town. It's a town outside of Paris. That's all you really know. It's a suburb. That's all that, but we got so much more out of it. My daughter got more out of it. I got more out of the conversation. It really enriched it. So I'm a huge fan. I do have a follow-up question though, real quick, to Jyunmi or Beth or anybody who has the pro account, because I only have the free side. And the one thing I really don't love about Perplexity is its knowledge is a curse in the sense that when you select the next suggested question to go down a path, sometimes I want 2 or 3 of them. And I want the option to scroll back up and go, thank you, I wanted to go down that path. And now I would like to come back up to the 3 options and go down this path. And then I want to come up and I want to go down the middle path. Is that an option on the Pro, or is that just something missing from Perplexity?
It's not missing. I will say Jyunmi can answer his way too. You can edit the query, but unlike ChatGPT, it doesn't fork it for you. If you go back and edit the query, like add another period, hit enter, you'll get the same thing with the same
But the simple feature that you're asking for, Brian, is let me scroll back up and pick another one of those prompted questions. And
yes.
I have a Pro version, and that's not available.
No.
Yeah, it seems like an obvious miss. But I didn't know that, Beth. So you did give me sort of a workaround.
It's my number one con
is it?
to Perplexity, because if I'm really researching a subject, like I'm going deep, I need to go back to the different forks. I need to go back to those things. Otherwise, I have to remember it for later, or I have to come up with an additional question. But I'm with you, Brian, 100%. I would just love that. Just leave it. Just leave it.
Yeah.
And how many pros you get on the free version, because I absolutely love the free version. But like I said, it's really easy to get in with the way they've set it up. But yes, please have those related questions. So Perplexity, if you're listening.
I know we want to move on really quick. I want to add one thing to really quick, Jyunmi, which is another level of that. A pro version I'd love to see is being able to click a little icon that says, show me my mind map. And it zooms out and shows me all the tentacles I went down.
Yes.
And then I could go back up into that, almost like an ancestry.com, family tree.
It's called a knowledge graph. And
there you go.
Generating that in real time by choosing the paths that you go down, but just creating your own personalized knowledge graph.
Yes, that's what I would like.
A knowledge graph behind it that allows you to see where the edges are to the topic that you're on right now and say, oh, I'm interested in that one. Let me go that way. But generally, I noticed that Perplexity's proposed next questions are quite similar. And you can see that even among the list, one of them will be almost identical to what you asked in the first place. So it's like, why should I try that? When I tried it, it gave me back exactly the same answer. So there's something wonky there. Let me just take the air here for a second and say, I also have been using Perplexity here to look at historical facts and figures around, what I'm seeing as I'm touring, northern Spain. But I think that that's a model which is closer to search than is, the tools that will actually help you as a real-time coach to learn something in practice. So all the examples we've been talking about here are information retrieval kind of things, not practicing something. And so there's some really, really sophisticated tools out there now that do this kind of practice-oriented guided coaching. And those are very interesting. I'll name one. For mathematics, there's Carnegie. Carnegie is the, what is it called? It's, anyway, Carnegie Learning is the name of the tool. I've never tried it, but it is it is exactly what I'm describing, which is an AI-powered education software that provides personalized experiences, and it does interactive lessons with real-time feedback, helping them, understand difficult concepts and so on. I want to also just put out that a different kind of model is available through the custom GPTs. So in the custom GPTs, you have something different from Perplexity, which launches a search based on terms and phrases in your query. So you put in your prompt, and it's going to launch a number of searches. Well, there's some wiggle room there on what searches are selected and what the cited references that they select from those search results are. Whereas by contrast, in a custom GPT on a specific subject, and there are many of them out there on very specific subjects, somebody has gone to the trouble of curating into the knowledge base of that particular custom GPT a lot of really human-selected relevant content. So I'll give an example of something that Jyunmi and I have been working on recently, for which I've used a custom GPT to understand it. And it is, we're working in a low-code tool set, and low-code, it's not like you have to write Python code anymore, but it still has its own idiosyncratic UI and models of how to structure the API calls and so on in the low-code assembly of this back-end management system. The one we're using is called BuildShip. It's very good, but it's not simple. So there happens to be a custom GPT that's so specific, actually, that it's made for people who are working in BuildShip and Flutterflow, which is the front-end UI. So as I've been going about working with Jyunmi to try to figure out, what do we have to do? What are our next steps? What's the guide on the process? I've been asking and refining questions to that custom GPT and getting answers back that I then post to share with Jyunmi so that we have a better understanding of what these new tools that we don't have a lot of experience with actually should be, how they should be configured in order to actually deliver what we're looking for.
Yeah, it's been extremely helpful, especially in the understanding part, right? So when the output is it explains what these key components are, right? And you kind of learn through that association when you're going through things like BuildShip and Flutterflow and whatnot. So it can help you. It can help you speed up your uptake, right? Your curve there in learning a new tool. So I think that's a number one takeaway for using custom GPTs like that, because if you're starting from zero, it's very helpful to, you're inundated with different terminologies and things like that. So it helps you get that quick first step into getting into that space. So don't worry if you don't have, if you have no knowledge, you can use these custom GPTs to get you that first step of knowledge and then get you working.
Now, but I'll also add that there are custom GPTs in the library or the store, if you will, for all of these things that are focused on generalized education. And the number one tool there is called Universal Primer, the fastest way to learn anything. You just give it, what subject area you're interested in, and then you can refine it by, adding additional questions as you get into dialogue with this Universal Primer. The number 4 one is TutorMe, which is the Comigo Lite, right, from Khan Academy, which is basically available for lots of different subjects, math and science being primary focus, but the humanities as well, if you're a student in academia.
Yeah, I haven't played with Comigo since probably last year, but it was impressive back then. I can't imagine where it's at now with however they were building. I think they were building off models. I'm not quite sure what their process was, but regardless, it's a really great tool, and it's a great insight to what future of education will be, not just for children, but for anybody trying to onboard a brand new job. We talk about this all the time in sales. To onboard somebody in sales typically would take 90 days. And we are consistently seeing that 90 days get chopped and chopped and chopped to the point where we believe in if not now, soon, you will absolutely be able to onboard somebody who was maybe in sales, but not in your industry. So they've moved industries, but they have maybe some basic sales knowledge. So it's not like you're trying to teach them how to be a salesperson. Regardless, the onboarding still would usually be about 90 days to get the industry depth knowledge that you would have to have, plus the repetitions to go through in order to be, confident enough, consistent enough in order to book meetings, so on and so forth, get deals, so on and so forth. We're seeing that go down closer and closer towards, or trending towards 30 days. And it may dip below that, honestly, because now you can take, speaking of learning something new, now you can take custom GPTs, which we do. I've certainly built several of them, but the idea is essentially that you're embedding in it with knowledge documents on that particular company so that all the reps that the reps are doing, the repetitions that the sales reps are doing, are specific to their industry, sub-industry, what they're selling, what their company does. But then also it's got information about, how to adjust value props based on personas and things like that are really, really helpful. And what we know is that traditionally it would be very hard for maybe one AE or one senior rep who may be looking over a team of 4 or 5 or 6 to get that individual time with everybody. That's, not all companies have that luxury of having somebody just sitting in that role. More than likely, they're also selling, but now they have this additional duties. So this could be a really huge help to a lot of companies just by enabling them to bring in new reps in an industry that does have a bit of turnover. It's pretty common for sales reps to move around and find their niche and find what really lights them up. And so it's not like we have 6 and 9 and 10 year reps a lot of times. So this is an opportunity to bring new people in without significantly having a lot of downtime for the company, and it can directly impact ROI. So there's a lot of value in just building specific custom GPTs. And frankly, I build them, but they're not that hard to do. They're actually very easy to stand up. And I think that's a huge advantage of them, is that at least with a custom GPT, it's not the most sophisticated software out there. It's not the most sophisticated AI tool you can build with, but it's fast. And so it can get you from 0 to 60 very, very quickly. And then you could decide where you want to go from there. But we're starting to find over and over again, it is very good for building MVPs or just a proof of concept. Hey, would you be able to do this for our company? You know what? I'm not sure. It sounds like something we could do. Let me go test it. And in about 48 hours, I'm typically able to come back with some reasonable, error margin in there, but some assurance to say, yep, I've tested it far enough in the last 48 hours that I feel confident that if we started going down this route, money change hands, so on and so forth, we would be able to get to a really great solution. And that's something I just simply didn't have as a tool set, a year or two ago. It's really, really amazing. And hopefully a lot more people are using it like that. And by the way, Karl's here as well. I know I've talked a little bit. I do still have my use case, but I want to make sure we jump over and get other people involved. So Beth, why don't we jump over to you? What was your learning use case? Something you learned new, not specifically about the tool, but learning. What did you learn new and how did you go about it?
So I learned, I troubleshot, is that the word? Is that the verb? I troubleshot a JavaScript file. And I know pattern recognition kind of stuff, but this is something that Riley Brown talked about recently. Just going through and doing it line by line. What does this line do? Why is it in this file? What is the form of this? That kind of stuff. And literally just going line by line. And because I did that, I was able to actually fix something that Grimoire couldn't fix, and Sonnet 3.5 couldn't fix, and Gemini couldn't fix, because in that context, it's a curse of knowledge, right? There's so many places that could be impacting why this particular file wasn't working, but the human in the loop plus the AI made it so that I could recognize that there was a pattern that was correct, which is why they weren't seeing it, which is why I think the AIs weren't coming up with it. But that being able to go through in a file that was causing a client like headache after headache after headache, being like, yeah, no, I know we could go to a bunch of other AI things, but what I'm going to do is AI as my assistant, not me assisting AI, right? I'm just going to go line by line, find out why that's happening. Why is that comma there? Like, is that needed? No, actually. Could it be causing the problem? It shouldn't, but of course, then when you like fix the file, you upload it, and the proof is that the thing is fixed. So that's what I did. In some ways, it's like, I'm not a doctor, but I can play one on TV. This gives me that option to be able to play much bigger than my knowledge set, but still be the person deciding what's happening. And clients come to you with all kinds of problems. Can you fix this? I don't want to have to find a JavaScript developer, right? Like, yeah, okay, yes.
No, it's cool about that, Beth, that you just said that. I wouldn't have really thought about this, but it sounded like to me, you were explaining a situation where you were pretty effortlessly able to give the reins over to AI and then take them back, because that's how normal learning will go, or troubleshooting will go, is that it's not that I need to hand this all the way off to AI, but there's parts of maybe a continuum where you are in this process and you're like, okay, my knowledge takes me to here and I am the better person to handle this part. This is definitely more of a human, but I have an AI assistant. But there was also, it sounded like, times where you were able to lean back and say, okay, for this next section, I am going to be more or less the assistant or the human in the loop to the AI. It will get me to this next level, and then it may go back and forth, maybe multiple times throughout that process, which is really a cool idea, is that it does not have to be one or the other.
Right. And that's exactly where we are. And if you want to make sure that the quality that you're getting out is in alignment with your own standards, you do want to be in it while it's being built, right? You want to know those pieces. And it's lovely.
That's a cool use case.
Yeah. Karl, what's your use case? Is there something you have specifically learned with AI recently?
I've been using, there was a couple of problems that a client came up with, and some of the stuff was built on Ruby on Rails. So what I like doing is actually using Claude artifacts as a kind of tool to help me, give me a learning, like an interactive learning tool to showcase it. And then kind of from there, show me the problem. It's all, and help me visualize it back to the client, exactly what we're looking to do. So it was really tough to do that with all the other tools, because you couldn't really, it was hard to describe it, but this helped me show it so much better. So that's where, and then anything else that I've more so, if I want to learn a little bit more on this, it's mostly, can you build an interactive learning tool about this? And then it would do it, and it would actually be pretty good at doing it. So that's what I've been kind of finding for the last, couple of weeks, using that as a way to, if I need to deep dive into something, that'd be it. Now, mind you, I don't pay for Claude. So I only get so many a day, which is fine, for what I need it for. I can't justify paying for anything when something else will come out in like whatever. So it's hard, because I paid the $14 for Gemini, and then it just didn't, I was like, I'm not using it enough. And then Claude, I was like, I remember several months back not using enough. So there's sometimes when I wish I paid for it, but the $28 in Canada, it's like, I don't know what my use case will be month to month. So that's where I am. But as a learning tool, fantastic.
Yeah, I can't use that example, Karl, because the ability that's been demonstrated in some of the early case examples of use of artifacts, that open panel on the right, is you give it a problem, say, now generate an interactive quiz and give me immediate feedback on each one that I answer. And it'll actually write the code to generate that visually as a web page right in Claude. So that it touches on, one of the two remaining things that go beyond practice And one of them is immediate feedback. Like the best AI-powered learning tools are going to give you not only the directions to cause you to practice, not just read text and answer questions, but actually do something. In the case of programming, you actually have to write and submit code. Code Signal has a tool like that. But to give immediate feedback, like if on the artifacts panel on the right, you were getting the tool and you're interacting with it, but over on the left, the chat bot is literally saying, you made I saw you click that one first and then corrected it before submitting it. I'm not sure how to, I think you might be confused about that one. Do you have any questions about that, for example? That kind of immediate feedback is really important. And then longer term, being able to assess the student in the longitudinal process of learning. So you have not just one session, but multiple sessions. And the AI understanding what the sort of the extent of your comprehension of the subject is and what your skills are and where you have gaps in your skills. That kind of longitudinal assessment is really important to learning and turning the task of tutoring over to an AI. It's not enough just to have an AI that's there able to answer any question. It'll be more sophisticated than that, especially with the new voice capabilities and video avatars eventually.
Well, I can't get why Anthropic hasn't partnered with some sort of educational institute to really showcase how this can help students, because there's a lot of students who are visual learners or teachers that can leverage Anthropic's and like the artifacts tool to do a lot of interesting things in their learning plan. So imagine like grade 10, hey, today we're going to learn, Pythagorean's theorem for math, but then today we're going to learn about World War II something for social studies. And then, but you can use artifacts for two different cases. One, you can showcase an interactive learning tool, but there you can showcase like maybe a mind map or maybe like charts that, and then the students themselves can say, oh, that's really cool. I'm going to copy that. And then I'm going to I forgot what the word is, respin it or rewrite it to do something else that I want to do. You can make an interactive assignment. That in itself, like that could be a whole day or maybe a whole couple of days of learning about certain things. To me, that's a way to help students and people learn much better than you've got an interact. That's how you leverage AI completely to help in education. So I'm very surprised that I still haven't seen Anthropic do that, which I thought that would be some sort of college or local college or junior college should be taking advantage of this if possible.
Well, that kind of
perhaps they are.
Yeah, well, it kind of comes down to the issue of awareness and adoption, right? And I think one of the focus for this show is how is AI moving into education, right? Let's talk about education and AI specifically, because a lot of the initial responses that I've heard from the educator side has been, oh, no. Universities just say, no, we don't want you to use that, right? Or on the other side, they say, for the smaller percentages say, yes, well, we realize you're going to use this anyways, right? Because isn't that the largest percentage of use, like on ChatGPT, is during those,
yes.
The school months, and then now it'll be a huge drop because we're going into summer and all those kinds of things. So there's a recognized use. All of the kids are using it. So let's talk about how that's going to adapt, right? And I know, Andy, you've talked about these educational tools and spaces and things like that. Do we have a solution, and are there solutions that we're aware of that will help in that move to AI enabled education? what are we seeing in these next few months, years, and things like that?
Well, there are a number of influencers who are guiding the design, particularly of sort of lesson design or educational learning process design for incorporating AI, both for individuals learning and our educational K-12s and college level educational processes, but also for learning and development within corporations. So the current model for almost every single thing you've ever had to do, whether it's an HR, checkbox thing you have to watch in a corporation, or it's something about, onboarding employees, the format's typically, here's a video, sit there, try to pay attention. At the end, we're going to ask you some questions to make sure that you stayed to the end and you listened a little bit. But we're not scoring you on it. We're just that's what you got to do in order to get to the next video. And then you get through all of those. And there are statistics that say that process that I just described, which is a knowledge transfer process, has a retention rate of about 12%. Whereas interactive exchange, which is challenging the learner to actually be able to track and interact in a conversational dialogue and interact with the screens with tools like the visualizations that you were talking about, Karl, that has a much better retention rate, like in the arena of 60% in this one-to-one model. So it'll dramatically improve the learning outcomes. And yes, there are a lot of people thinking about this. I can't remember which one it was, but somebody who just left one of the major AI companies is launching their own startup. Maybe one of you will.
Andrew Karpathy, is it Karpathy?
Yep.
Yeah, he's focused on education. So his new AI is going to try to advance the process, and I apologize for not remembering what the unique selling proposition of that particular design objective is for that tool. But so major minds in the world of AI are thinking carefully about how do we change the education process, not only for our students who are, our children, but also for individuals who want to learn anything.
So I want to show you something really quickly here, because I wanted to see, it just got me thinking a little bit more, and I think some of you've already probably seen it, where I wanted to, it's like, hey, I want to, I keep forgetting about, I want to true my, it's called truing your wheel for your mountain bike, to ensure the spokes are essentially straight, not curved. So, you asked Claude to do it, but think about the whole point of how everyone thinks, hey, Sora does this, right? But it's like, wait a minute. If I want if I want someone to show me something. So for example, hey, I want to change my oil on a 2014 Subaru Outback, or I want to change my oil on a Subaru 2021 Outback. Well, it's like, I kind of show you this, but imagine if it can, you don't need to go to YouTube. It just creates you the video based on all the training from a 2014 undercarriage and then how to do that. That would be kind of insane, wouldn't it? It's like, like a virtual person doing the whole thing. That, to me, that would be, and then think of that application across, right, any type of like adult learning, elementary school, post-secondary, being able to do that, to generate multimodal throughout that to me is huge opportunities from a learning perspective.
Yeah. I'm going to go one step further and like jump, I don't know, 7 minutes ahead of where you just had us, because time is nuts. And we're all wearing whatever the Meta glasses or the Apple glasses or whatever it is. And now it's augmented reality. So you're looking at your engine or you're looking at your undercarriage, and you see this ghost arm reach out and turn this knob, right? Like, and then a little thing that says, turn that knob, and a little audio that says, go ahead, turn the knob, right? Like lefty, righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, go turn it. Yep. There you
I
go.
like how your voice went down for that. Beth, you went, go ahead, turn it on. You can do it. You're great. You know, if it whispers sweet nothings in your ear too while I did it, like, you know what? While you're turning that knob, I just want to say you're the best I've seen do this oil change. Nobody's made it to this spot faster since I've been like, I am pretty good at this, you know? They're just reinforcement of
my personal assistant is going to have Beth's voice.
Yes. I love it. I should everybody's. I want to share my use case really quick here. And I'll try to keep it succinct because it kind of builds off of a lot of what you guys have been saying. But I was going to jump off of where Andy was because Andy, you were talking, well, Jyunmi, then Andy, in that chain of thought, which was that, you know, this learning, this education. And Andy, you brought back the idea of quizzing, which I think is a fantastic way. Beth, you've talked many times about brainstorming, and that sort of could be part of that. So my use case where I had to learn to do something that I had literally never done before, and that was create a maturity assessment. I know it by name. I know it by seeing them. I'm familiar with them. But to say I truly understood what the root, you know, not cause, what the true reason for having a maturity assessment on a particular topic, this is when we're dealing with clients, I did have that. So I needed to create one. That was the goal at the end of the goal for AI. Okay. Well, I started with ChatGPT by doing actually what you said, Andy, and what you were saying about Jyunmi, which was I said, help me understand. Well, there was a long process. I'll skip all that. But there was a conversation between me and the AI about understanding that what a maturity assessment was in fact there to do. What was its job? What should people get out of it? If a client is going through maturity assessment, what is the best case scenario on the other end of that? What is good? What does great look like? These are all questions you can easily ask, right? Inside a ChatGPT. And then what I wanted to do was say, okay, I believe I have this understanding because I wanted to have an understanding what was going on. And so then what I did was I said, okay, let's quiz me back. And so I don't say necessarily say quiz, but I said, ask me some questions and I'll give an answer on it because I wanted to make sure there was that baseline there. Once I got past that part, now was actually time to go and create this actual maturity assessment. So I could have just jumped in. I literally could have just put a prompt that said, create me a maturity assessment for blah, blah, blah. And it would have, but it wouldn't have been as good because number one, I wouldn't have been able to check what the output was because I didn't have the baseline understanding if I had just jumped to that step. So better to inform the human first, educate the human first, so I could be a co-pilot to the AI. And as we were talking about with Beth, you could go back and forth. So now once we did that, I was able to say, okay, let's start. So we worked through a series of questions, but okay, that just a series of questions isn't going to really get you to the answer because there has to be some end to this. So then after we did a series of questions and we went back and forth and there were some adjustments and things like that, we had a series of questions that had a series of multiple choice answers. And sometimes it was 0 to 10 on a rating scale. And sometimes it was literally A through E. Okay. But now I need to have a better understanding of what good and great looks like and what's the impact of selecting any one answer or any one choice for any one answer. So now there's 50 questions, there's 5 answers each, right? We're starting to get up into the high numbers here, but AI can do a really good job of helping you break down and go piece by piece by piece. And now this created a 75-page document of which I went through manually and I tweaked and I edited. I said, that's right, but that's not really there. And I went through that process. Well, okay, next step, there has to be a matrix. How do I score this? What does scoring look like? How would you go about scoring something like this in order to create something like a radar chart or something that would be visually representative of result to the client? Okay, what does that look like? So then there had to be a whole matrix created. ChatGPT helped me with that. The last part of it that I'll just say really quick was, okay, now we need to put this into some sort of test environment. So it exists on Typeform. I have all my questions. It connects to Google Sheets. It sends all the answers to Google Sheets. And now I need to take the hypothetical test run of a company, dump it into somewhere to see if this is working. So what I did was I created a quick custom GPT, which was the actual maturity assessment. It took all the answers that came out of the Google Sheet. You dump them immediately into the custom GPT. It runs through the entire maturity assessment, and it has rules in there, like talking about giving high-level overviews, and then talking about giving detailed action items. what does the timeline look like? How would we even deploy this? Meaning, what are some of the quick wins early on, and so on and so on and so on. Multi steps to this. And I was able to go from literally, I won't say never know, I've seen maturity assessments. We had another example at the company, but not specifically for what I needed, going all the way from there, all the way to creating something that was functional and could be deployed really in a MVP type environment. I won't say it's like, it's ready for a client, but it's almost there. It's being tested internally. It took me 3 days. It's 4 hours a piece for 3 days. So 12 hours to go from a dead stop to something that was fully functional and usable and very close to being used with a client. I mean, these are just things that were not been available to me. I would have had to get with coworkers, and I would have had to understand. I would have got to get their time and who created this, the other document. So, yeah, all the questions you would have had to go through, but I would have had to lean on so many other people to get there. And instead, what I'm able to do is deliver something to my superiors and say, this is where I'm at. Go take a look at this in its full function and give me your feedback on it, and then we'll make edits and changes throughout there. So just wanted to share that as my example, my latest example of like last week on this kind of stuff.
That's amazing. So we have, we're going to wrap up, but Jen used it to blow her friend's mind, ask Perplexity to tell her what sort of salary range to ask for in a possible new job. Justin has used it to learn all kinds of things. And Leah is using it to create a 72 event unique checklist for events at my son's school. It's super sick.
Yeah, let's go on and talk about real quick with the rest of the week. Tomorrow, we're going to be talking not just about Sam Altman, but the sort of new rules that OpenAI has put out there about AGI. The reason I bring up Sam Altman is because he kind of just said not too recently that he had given up in giving a definition of AGI, and here we are with an actual sort of definition of AGI, or at least the levels of AGI. So we're going to dive deep into that. The levels of AGI that OpenAI put out. For Wednesdays, the news as always. Thursday, Beth is going to be taking us through a really cool use case of structured prompts using Google AI Studio. If you really want to understand how to use structured prompts, you need to show up for that, because Beth is a whiz and a master at that. And we all learn from her internally. And then Friday, Karl's going to be taking the wheel a little bit and talking about a particular software or service called Floor Plans.
Get Floor Plans.
Get Floor Plans. Thank you. I was like, I don't know, it's great. Get Floor Plans. But even bigger than that, it's like this bigger idea of AI as a service, because it's really interesting what getfloorplans.com is doing. And Karl's going to show us sort of a demo of that. And I think it'll open up a larger conversation about these types of softwares and how they're basically saying, hey, trade money with us. We will use our custom trained AI to deliver a really high quality product back to you. So we'll get into all of that on Friday. Don't forget to go to thedailyishow.com. You can all learn about all our past episodes. You could also get subscribed to the newsletter, as well as find out how you can work with us individually or as a group for your business needs. So that's it for today, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great day.
Aloha.